And joining me now, I'm pleased to have former Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, who's also served as Chief of Staff for Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister, very good to see you. Thank you so much. So the U.S. is against an Israeli occupation post-war and is insisting that there has to be a Palestinian, whatever the governance is, that the Palestinians have to be involved, whether it's West Bank Palestinians or some new formulation. What do you think is the best solution here?
Well, we have right now Al-Qaeda state on our border with Osama bin Laden supposedly running it. So the first thing
You're analogizing Hamas,
yeah,
of
Hamas
course, with Al-Qaeda, because they're terrorists.
Full-blown terrorists who we now know will murder all Israelis if they can, and rape and sever arms and legs of babies, which is what they did. So we have two objectives: to release all 240 hostages and to fully eliminate Hamas. You're asking about the day after, which is a long way down the road, but it's a legitimate question. We don't want to govern Gaza. Israel never had a territorial claim for Gaza. We gave up Gaza and handed it over to the Palestinian Authority, and we got hell. This time around, what we're going to want to do is keep a security strip after the war, a buffer zone, to move them away from Israel, say 1 kilometer deep. And there will be some sort of a transitory period, after which there'll be a form of self-governance that works for them.
Well, that's a demilitarized zone that takes away some land from them.
Well, there's a price to pay when you go and murder innocent civilians. We have to. We're not doing it because we want to grab land. As I said, we have no desire for that, but we have to protect our people. If you had crazy terrorists next to your home, you'd also want a security zone.
What do you think about this 3-day pause? Because the Prime Minister has not indicated that, but we understand that there are talks underway with Qatar, with Israel, with the U.S. for a 3-day pause, hopefully to try to get some hostages out. Is that on the table?
I think instead of applying pressure on Israel to cease fire, there should be only one pressure point, and it's to pressure Hamas into disarming Gaza and releasing hostages.
But as an interim step, what about a 3-day pause?
It's a very bad idea. I'll tell you why.
Why is it a bad idea?
It's a bad idea because when...
It might help you to get hostages out.
They're going to play around with us and maneuver us and give us a few hostages, but then it'll prolong the whole suffering of everyone.
Do you think that Netanyahu would agree to it?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I'm representing my position. We're in war. We have to defeat Hamas. The longer this goes on, the more suffering there will be for everyone. So imagine it's the Nazi regime, January 1945, we got to win the war. If we keep on pausing and allowing them to refresh themselves, each time we give them a day, it's another 2 weeks to the war.
Now, the counter-argument is that you are losing not only Europe and others in the region, and their opinion may not matter, but ultimately it's going to affect your funding and your support internationally. But you're losing the Senate. A majority of the Senate has now come out with a statement saying that there has to be a pause and that Israel has to be, that the $14 billion should not go to Israel if it's in violation of U.S. or international law. And international law does affect some of your airstrikes.
Well, there's two different issues. International law, we're abiding to international law. We are bending over backward to allow everyone out of harm's way from northern Gaza to southern Gaza.
Except that there's no place for them to go.
There is in southern Gaza. There are safe zones, but if Hamas...
We have seen strikes against safe zones.
No,
we have it on camera.
It's not a safe zone. If Hamas shoots rockets from there, it's not a safe zone. It's a killing zone, and we have to eradicate Hamas. Understand, there's no magic wand that can tweezer out Hamas if they insist on killing their own people by hiding within them and shooting rockets at us. So the best way to shorten the suffering is to win and focus on winning. Right now, it's tantamount to thinking about the German citizens in January of 1945. You want to end the suffering, you got to win.
Let me ask you about the hostages. Do you know that the 240 are still alive?
I don't want to talk about the precise information. Many of them, for sure, are alive, and we're very worried about them. There should really be only one demand and one question every morning. Why aren't you releasing the hostages? We're talking about babies. We're talking about a 6-month-old baby. You got to see, this is Kfir Bibas. This is a 6-month-old baby, and he's being held hostage by Hamas.
They're not complying with the Red Cross requirement. The Red Cross
Nothing.
are supposed to get in and communicate with families, see them. I know that.
We're talking about just the craziest, most radical Islamic terrorists and sadists in the world. There's no way to meet them in the middle. If we give them a pause, it means they'll now rearm themselves. It'll prolong the war. They're going to kill many more Israelis, and that's unacceptable.
And no two-state solution.
We gave them a state in Gaza. They got a full-blown state in 2005. We pulled out, gave them the land, and they turned that state into a disaster, into hell. Well, we're not going to do a 3-state solution.
Okay. We can argue about whether that was a state, but that's another whole question. Please come back.